Interview transcript. Antoine, are there some organizations from the humans on the surface of the Earth, to support the event on the etheric and astral planes? Cobra, there is something that is being prepared but it's not finalized yet. Is there any positive ET presence on the etheric and astral planes on the surface of this planet? C. Yes. Can you talk about it? How far does it go? C. It is a little bit early to speak about it because the positive forces on the etheric and astral planes are now pretty much working undercover, because there is still much of a reptilian presence, and when this reptilian presence will be removed, the positive forces on the etheric and astral planes will reveal themselves openly. These positive forces include human population and other forces of light. Forces of light who came from beyond the surface? C. I'm not commenting on that, but there is quite a strong presence of light which is hidden, not exposing too much right now on the etheric and even lower astral planes. Was the Southern TV interruption by the Ashtar Command in 1977 real? C. Yes. So it was really the Ashtar Command? C. Yes. Who was Anubis? C. He was one of the deities that were actually extraterrestrial beings who visited ancient Egypt in the time of late Atlantis. Is he an ascended being? C. At this moment yes, back then no. What archetype does he represent? C. He represents the archetype of wisdom in his ascended state. But before, various people had various interpretations of his symbolism. So I'm speaking about his status now. What does the true archetype of Saturn correspond to? C. The true, I would say ascended archetype of Saturn, is an archetype of stability. Not of contraction, not of suppression, but stability and balance. You said in your last post that almost every being inside the solar system got implanted in 1996. C. Yes, the members of the light forces outside the surface of this planet, were they implanted by distance or captured? C. They were actually captured on the plasma plane, not in the physical, some of them even on the physical, but most of them were implanted on the plasma plane, etheric plane or lower astral plane. Some of them were taken outside of the solar system into implant stations in the Orion system at that time, and returned back to the solar system. So it's not something that happens by distance? C. No, it didn't happen by distance. There was an actual presence of strong reptilian and Draco forces in 1996 throughout the whole solar system, on every plane, physical, plasma, etheric, astral and mental planes. So when a human tries to remove it, you said they are recreated automatically, is this also not done by distance? C. The implants are being refilled with plasma which is connected with the tunnels of Set and with the plasma network which extends throughout the whole solar system. Okay, so it's never happened yet that these implants are removed fully? C. There has been implants removed before the invasion of 1996, but after the invasion of 1996, there has been cases but extremely rare, and people who have ascended have not ascended from the surface of the planet, but from, I would put it this way, from the Agartha network. I would not say exactly which faction and which location, but certain people went from the surface into the Agartha network in a certain location, removed the implants, and ascended. Are these implants the same that you talked about before, the two above the eyes and the one above the navel? C. Yes. Okay. And so you said that all sentient beings whatsoever inside the solar system have been implanted. Does that include animals and plants? C. Animals are not fully conscious. They are conscious but they don't have their I am presence fully shaped, so the vast majority of cases were not implanted. Some animals were implanted, especially animals that the Cabal uses for various dark purposes, but this is very rare, it's not a widespread occurrence. Okay. And how about plants? C. No. So the light forces already have the technology to remove them, but they can't do it yet because it would trigger strangulate bombs, yes? C. They are removing them gradually in order not to trigger the bombs. There is a protocol, I have mentioned this, I think a little bit more than 1 year ago, There is a protocol to remove all this and they are carrying out that protocol, but it takes time. It takes more time because the surface population is not exactly cooperating. In some conferences you mentioned that men had implants on the heart and women on the second chakra. See, not exactly, it's actually an implant which exists between the heart and the solar plexus chakra, but it creates a split between the heart and sexual energy. And this split is different for men and women. But the implant itself is the same? See, the implant itself is in the same location for both. But a different program of the implant is activated for men than for women, to ensure conflicts in relationships. Okay. Who is Goddess Columbia? See, it's just a name of the goddess. If you translate this from Latin, Columbia means dove, which is one of the symbols of Goddess Venus. So Columbia as a goddess is one aspect of Venus. Is Buddha one of the 70 ascended masters of the earth? See, yes, but he didn't go exactly through the same path as the majority of the ascended masters. But yes, if I generalize, I can say he is one of the ascended masters. A very very highly evolved being. Is his twin flame known on this planet? See, no. Who is Goddess Tara? See, one of his soulmates. And she's also one of the 70 ascended masters? See, yes. Do sound waves reach into non-physical planes? See, yes, of course, actually the sound is transmitted through the ether and not through the physical. It is not just vibrations of the molecules of the air, it is transmitted through the ether. Sound always has the physical aspect and the etheric and also plasma aspect. It's never just a pure dense physical phenomena, it's always also an energetic phenomena. Okay, and does it reach into the astral and higher planes? See, to a certain degree yes. Of course there are sounds which are purely astral and mental, and they are actually the archetypes behind music. What process exactly made Atlantis and Lemuria sink? See, there were actually many cataclysms, some of them had the same reasons, some of them had different reasons. The main reason was the galactic central sun pulses of the 26,000-year cycle, which came in a regular fashion, and sometimes the grid could handle it, sometimes the grid couldn't handle it. And then, especially in late Atlantean period, there was a lot of black magic, dark forces were quite strong, and they were experimenting with technology to manipulate the energy grid, and this has triggered few of the most recent Atlantean cataclysms. Okay. And so did the sea levels rise to cover the continents? See, actually there was a continent in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, which sank below the waters, because there was a rift in the middle of the ocean between the two tectonic plates, which was strong enough to create the sinking of the continent, and this is different from the rise of the sea levels because the ice was melting at the end of the last ice age. There were two separate processes but they were connected. So did the melting of the ice age happen at a different time? See, actually the last remnants of the Atlantean islands went down exactly at the end of the last ice age, so those two processes were taking place at the same time. So it was a combination of experimentations with energy grids by the dark forces, and strong energies from the galactic center. What role do tachyons play in mitochondria reversal? See, actually tachyons can trigger the mitochondria reversal if there is a right combination of factors, right concentration of tachyons, with the right level of consciousness of the host of these mitochondria, right nutrition, etc. There are a few factors that need to be combined and they need to match, to trigger the process. When we get monoatomic gold, are there certain forms that can be dangerous, something we should be careful about when choosing a product? See, monoatomic gold per se is not dangerous, but sometimes people are selling things that are not monoatomic gold, but they promote them as such, so this is a different story. But the actual monoatomic gold is actually a very high vibrational state of matter which assists us in reaching superconductivity in our energy system. And it's actually a very good tool to increase our vibrational frequency. So is there a way to discern, in the way it was made, if it's actual monoatomic gold or not? See, yeah, you need to get yourself educated, a little bit informed, and then you will be able to discern which is right and which is not. There's no simple formula how to say which one is not, but there are quite good articles about monoatomic gold on internet. Maybe sometimes I will put a link, or explain more about this, when the time is right, but now there are so many other things which are more important. Was George Washington connected with the light? C. Yes. Has he ascended or is he still part of the general population? C. At this moment he is already ascended. When did he ascend? C. In the second part of the 20th century. Was he part of that group that ascended after 1996? C. No, absolutely not. How long has the last expansion cycle lasted? C. You mean the cycle we are now in? Yes. 14 billion years. Now we are exactly at the turning point between the expansion and contraction again. And this is the deepest reason why there is this big house cleaning in this part of the galaxy. This is the total clearing of all darkness. Everything must go because the universe is rearranging itself into a higher spiral of evolution, and everything that does not align with this has to go. What were the connections behind the Pre-Raphaelites Brotherhood? C. Actually this brotherhood was supported indirectly, I would not say directly but indirectly, by the Brotherhood of the Star by mental telepathic impressions. Because Brotherhood of the Star was sending ideas, images, to various groups, to speed up the evolution of the planet. This is how they work usually. So, within the Brotherhood of the Star, the people who do that, would you say they are more present physically on Earth, on the surface, underground, or above the surface, or is it just the Ascended Masters, or all of them together? C. Yes, they are everywhere. So these mental impressions are sent by all of them together? C. They have specialized task groups that send certain mental impressions to a certain group. It's a very targeted meditation which is very precise and very powerful, and people who are in the right state of development receive these impressions as their own ideas. They materialize these impressions on the physical plane. They sometimes write books, sometimes they hold conferences, sometimes they invent things. This is for example how they were cooperating with Nikola Tesla. This is just one example. This is one of the major forces of development on the surface until now. So the group who is being targeted is mostly the Order of the Star, yes? C. Yes. Are the light forces beyond the surface of this planet unified about the plan for the liberation of this planet? C. Most of them, yes. Actually, the vast majority of the Agartha network, including the resistance movement, together with extraterrestrial positive forces, they are completely aligned. But there are certain factions of the Agartha network that have been joining lately in the last year, especially on the eastern side, some of the ancient factions, and they have quite much of a trouble integrating because some of them are quite traditional. They look like some of the more traditional dragon forces on the surface of the planet, and they have quite much of work to do, so I would not say that everything is completely harmonized. It's a process of integration which still continues. Can you explain more about the base in the Pleiades that Corrigan visited? C. Actually, yes, okay. It's not a base, it's a whole planet, which is on the outskirts of the Pleiadian star system. I don't know if he visited that one, but I know for sure that there is a certain planet, around one of the stars in the outskirts of the Pleiadian star cluster, which was chosen many years ago to be a healing place for the human hostages and human evacuees. Many beings have been evacuated from the solar system and from this planet in the last, I would say, 2 decades, and they have been transported to this planet and they are receiving healing there. It's a paradise, it's a very positive existence. I don't know if Corrigan has spoken about that particular place, but that is the major healing hub for the human population. I will speak about this in details in one of my future posts. This is quite a recent development. This planet was not inhabited 2 decades ago, it was an empty planet, and now it has been dedicated solely for the recovery of human population. The plasma devices in cell phones, laptops and Wi-Fi routers, are they turned off when you turn off the devices that they are in? C. No, they are turned on 24h a day. Even if you remove the battery? C. even if you remove the battery. Also, your phone can spy on you even if you close it down or even if you remove the battery. The newer versions of smartphones are spying devices for the Cabal 24h a day. Okay. The plasma devices, were they put there by distance? See, they were not put there by distance. The actual manufacture and process for certain components of these phones include the plasma aspect. When the physical chip is being made, the plasma chip is being made at the same time, in the same factory. When did this start? See, this was gradually being introduced, but I would say it's been fully operational in the last 2 years. So if you have an older version of the phone, you might be lucky. And are the plasma devices gonna be removed by distance? See, the light forces have technology and they will remove this very soon. Who are the people with elongated skulls that have been found all over the planet? See, they were people mostly from the Sirius star system, and also from some other star systems, and many of them were quite positive they were actually trying to improve conditions here on this planet. What happened to the 7,000 skeletons which were found in the Hypogeum in Malta, some of them who had elongated skulls? See, there were a few things that happened. One of them, unfortunately, there was a war. That war was actually part of the first Archon invasion, the Kurgan Archon invasion more than 5,000 years ago, and some people hid in that underground system to escape from that wave of invasion, and actually, unfortunately they were discovered and they were all killed. And in later times, millennia after that, this Hypogeum system was rediscovered and was a shelter for some people, and there were earthquakes and many people died underground during those earthquakes. So the people who built the Hypogeum were these people with elongated skulls? See, no. The Neolithic people on Malta who had strong connections with the goddess built it. The same who built the other temples around the island? See, yes. What's the original meaning of the Templar cross? See, actually, it's a double symbol, because the Templars have a bright side and a dark side. They were actually two organizations intertwined with one another, one trying to infiltrate the other, and the other way around. And both organizations were using the same symbol. The light side wanted to channel the energy of the light through the symbol, and the dark side wanted to channel the energy of the dark through the same symbol, so actually the symbol was a focal point for the war between the light and dark forces. And it was also used by other groups before them, yes? See, it's an ancient symbol, yes. Actually the Templars are just one version of a very ancient occult group which is much older than that. So this was just one, I would say, incarnation of that group. So what was the original meaning of the symbol before them? See, it was always the same. It was always the focal point for both sides, since Atlantis. Many ancient statues portray the goddess as very big, almost obese, like on Malta. What's the meaning of the symbol? See, actually there were times when food was a very scarce commodity, and if somebody was obese it was a sign of power and authority, and those obese women were symbols of fertility and abundance. It was actually their idea of beauty at that time. And many ancient goddess statues found on Malta were found without heads. Were they originally like this? See, no. Well, actually some of them, yes. Some of them were made without heads, and heads were then added later, regarding the purpose of rituals. So for example, if in one ritual, the statue represented the high priestess, a certain head was put on. If in another ritual, that statue represented the sky goddess, another head was put on. But there were also some other statues which were made completely with heads, and later when Christianity came, they purposely broke the heads off to desecrate the symbol. And usually many goddess statues from Roman times, they are without heads because in the 4th century, there was an Archon invasion when those Christian priests broke most of the heads of the statues. And this is the same thing that they were doing to the noses as well, yes? See, yes, whatever they could destroy, hands, legs, nose, head. But head was the most important target because if they removed the head, they believed that they killed the spiritual power of the statue. So this is the same thing that happened when Napoleon destroyed the nose of the Sphinx. C. Yes. U. Can you explain the role of Thule in Greenland in Earth history? C. Actually Thule is an ancient name for Atlantis. And Thule in Greenland is part of an old memory of one Atlantean colony which was up there in the north. So there is also just one fragment of a very old legend saying that Thule itself was Atlantis, and not just one small colony out there in the north, but a fragment of that legend remained in the mythology of Germanic people. So it's just a reflection of the memory of Atlantis. U. Are there some crop circles which are made by negative forces or are they all positive? C. Not all of them are original, some of them are made by people who are from the surface population, and these people might not always have the best interest, so I wouldn't say they are always made by positive forces. U. Are the stories about Putin suppressing local freedoms in Russia true, or is this being done by other factions? C. It is both. He is working for the light, he is supporting the Eastern Alliance, but he is not a perfect person, and he also has his own imperfections. But compared to what the cabal is doing, his imperfections are much less. I would say that he is a much better choice at this point than most of the politicians that you see elsewhere. U. When was Yaldabaoth created? C. That entity was created many millions of years ago. U. And how was it created? C. It was actually an impulse from one of the angels that wanted to descend into matter, and decided to project his consciousness into the plasma plane. And there was a strong interaction between the plasma anomaly and that being, so you have this atrocity now that is still existing in the solar system. U. So that entity was always negative? C. Not always, only since the moment he decided to project his consciousness into plasma matter. Before that it was an angelic being who made the wrong choice. U. So this angelic being is Yaldabaoth? C. I would say a fallen archangel at this point. U. Can you talk about the process in which the light forces will use the media at the event? Who will be talking on TV? Will there be pre-recorded messages? C. It will be the same TV anchors we have now, the same journalists that we have now will have access to the media, but the stories they will be given will be different. Their source of news will not be as it usually is now, but they will receive media information packages from certain people who will receive them from the resistance. U. Is it predicted that they will accept to receive these messages? C. Yes, of course, most of them will. U. Are they not totally mind-controlled? C. They are not totally mind-controlled, they just want to keep their jobs and they just say what they have to say, what they are told to say. And when they see the changes most of them will agree with those changes. Not all of them will, but the critical mass of them will. U. I usually feel a big energetic shift when I cross the border of a country, can you explain what is behind this? C. Actually on the etheric and astral plane there is an energy matrix for each country, which is a combination of the thought forms and emotions of people involved, combined to the technology of the veil, which shifts and directs that mental and emotional matrix in certain directions. So that, for example, Germans have a certain type of programming, the French have a little bit different one, and when you cross the French-German border you can feel the difference. U. Will PayPal, Bitcoin, and other similar platforms also be shut down at the event? C. No, they will not be shut down, but they will be taken in the hands of the light forces. U. So people will be able to transfer money on these platforms during the event? C. Not during the event, they will be blocked temporarily, you will be able to log in, you will be able to see your account and amount there, but you will not be able to make any transaction, except in certain isolated cases which I will not describe here. U. Has Rene Dangeau ascended? C. Yes, of course. U. How about Giulietta Monfiltro? C. Also of course. U. Who is Master Pinto, and has he also ascended? C. Also yes. I don't know exactly which were his previous incarnations, but he is an ascended being right now. U. You mentioned that the galactic center waves that happen every 26,000 years have masculine and feminine aspects. Does the galactic center always send both equally? C. No, it sends the combination which is most needed in the galaxy at that time. U. You talked about some quite difficult consequences of the masculine waves in a previous post. What would you say is the highest purpose of the masculine waves? C. The highest purpose of the masculine wave is to clear and destroy old outdated structures. For example, if you have a very negative civilization, which has no way of being saved, that wave can actually erase that species from the planet. And that species need to reincarnate again, in different conditions, with all the negative thought forms, negative inventions and social structures being destroyed. So when darkness will be over, there will still be masculine waves, but they will not be destroying things. Yes. See, there will still be masculine waves, but they will just inspire people in very bold actions, to explore the universe, to reach higher. They will not need to destroy anything anymore. Okay. And how do waves from the galactic center manifest in the liberated universe at this point? See, as energy waves which inspire. Actually, they are big opportunities for fast and extremely accelerated spiritual growth, for quantum leaps. End of transcript.